So let's talk about freestyle frames. So I never really skated freestyle frames. The first time I tried my first freestyle was 2016. Just out of curiosity, I wanted to try out Kizer Type M frames. Those are the only ones you are not going to see here. And the other ones that I haven't tried that aren't here are the 50/50 freestyle frames, because those only came with the core system. Currently you can get them only as a 3D print, but you also need the core system 2.0. So let's start with the one that you aren't seeing here, the Kizer Type M frames. Those are the frames I did one slide with, only one grind, and I took them off and I never touched them again. I didn't like them at the time. Actually, throughout most of my blading, I only used Freerocker, and I never really felt like I needed anything until now. So this year, during this summer, I tried out most freestyle frames that are or aren't available on the market. Let's start with the Xsjados Xsjados. Okay, so most of us are very familiar with this frame. There's a lot of problems. My first problem is I have big feet, and these frames are, what is it, 255. 255 is a very short wheel length. I understand that. Shorter wheelbase is better for maneuverability and turning when you only have two wheels touching, but I don't feel stable. That is why I prefer frames that are around 270 to 280 wheelbase. I got these frames for somewhat cheap. I refurbished them. I think this was either this tan brownish color or gray. I don't remember. I don't even remember. I painted it white, and I painted in the letters. Painted the other side too. I only paint stuff where it will not wear off very quickly, because you could see that this one has, I'm not sure what it's called. It's like a side groove. It's the vertical groove, which helps you lock and keep the lock much better. I added some homemade stickers and painted the axles. These are suspension frames. I need to admit that I never really done a single grind on these, because even rolling is somewhat challenging. These are currently available, the Kaltik freestyle frames. There is one huge problem with these ones as well. I got a feet that is 285 millimeters long, and this frame is about 250 to, well, it's probably 248 millimeters. Very short. Not feeling stable on it. I'm going to go through them again. I've been looking for these. These are the ground control Featherlite 2 Freestyle frames. This is the original name. It's a bit yellowed out. I was looking for these everywhere, and I'm really grateful for the person who messaged me that he has it, and it's up for sale. I'm really happy that I managed to try this frame. I wasn't really serious about skating these frames because freestyle is probably not the best for everything. But I was really surprised how good these are. I really like the look, I really like the weight. They're a bit old and used and worn, somewhat nasty looking, but these are probably amongst my favorite. And the last one is, this is a newer product. Hey, what's this? People are asking me, what is that frame? This is the Trigger Freerocker freestyle frames. Or is it really freestyle? It technically is, but it looks like a regular frame with a regular H block. But you got these little knobs. It's like your grind wheels, but built into the frame. So currently I'm skating these just to test them out. I'm having some smaller issues. The size is pretty good. These come in large. I think it's around 270mm wheelbase. Let's go through all of them again once more. Okay, so I'm going to eliminate these. I won't be skating these, and can't really talk much about them, how they grind. So they are out. Xsjado. My problem with this one, it doesn't really lock very well. If you, let's say, dual saw grind or top saw, you really need to keep in mind that you have a very wide groove and a very shallow groove. Even with the vertical groove, sometimes your feet could slip off. If you do a top saw and you just extend your leg, you really need to keep this. You really need to keep this in the middle, in balance. You can't really cheat by. Well, it's really ironic that these are called cheater frames, but you really need to be very careful how you put these onto, how you lock these onto a rail. These could slip off very easily. Locking on, hitting this area is very easy, but keeping it on requires extra skill. And you could see, I even dremeled it in, but it doesn't help much. So I ended up not using these frames longer, mostly because of the very short wheelbase. Kaltik Freestyles. So these lock quite well. They are extremely light. You can see it has hollowed out walls. Fantastic idea. I applaud the person who came up with this. It's the rockable axles. You could put, I think, some quite large wheels into this one. Probably like 70. I mean, if you have a sole plate scooped out, I think you could probably go 70 or even 72. But I don't have huge wheels like that. So I somewhat understand probably the idea behind the wheelbase is that if you have a shorter wheelbase, you get better maneuverability, better turning. But the problem is, I just don't feel it. I don't feel stable. I would need these to be 10mm apart outward, so I would get a very good stable ride, and I care less about turning and maneuverability while I'm rolling. Looking wise, this one looks much better than the Xsjados. When I bought this, I was a bit worried that if you have, well, I don't have the wheel in, you have this groove here. Technically you get like 2 extra grooves. Fortunately my wheel, I mean any rail that I skated didn't get stuck in here. Normally if you look at somewhere around this area, it just slips in to the groove, but even this one requires some extra precision to hold the frame. I mean to hold your trick on the rail. Next one is Featherlite to Freestyles from Ground Control. Among the previous ones, these lock on the best because this one has a very well thought out groove. You could see, I mean it's hard to see even in photos that you have just doesn't really have a vertical groove. It's not scooped out here, but it's more like a scoop like here, this direction, and you have this groove. So this one locks the best. And what I really like about this frame, that it's very light, and the wheelbase is very generous, 270, just the right wheelbase. Last one is Trigger. This one looks really well. It has a pretty deep groove, much deeper, much narrower than a regular freestyle frame. So this is not really a freestyle frame, somewhat of a freestyle frame, let's say. I'm somewhat happy with it. I will be testing it. Then I will probably switch them up. It really just depends on my mood each day. And sometimes I just decide on a whim about what frame I'm skating on a day. Okay, so here's the question. Is it worth it to skate freestyle? I would say in some occasions, yes, it's definitely worth it. It has a bunch of advantages, a bunch of disadvantages. What I noticed, and I like the most, that as the name suggests, freestyle, you could do a bunch of things that you couldn't do with anti-rocker or by riding flat setup. But you could put your feet on in somewhat unusual positions. It really helps you to experiment and not be limited by any wheels here. Not a grind wheel, not a regular wheel here in the middle. Probably the biggest advantage of freestyle frames is the weight reduction you get, because even against the anti-rocker, it's much lighter to have a freestyle frame because you don't have to carry any metal axles in the middle, and even the lightest anti-rocker wheel weighs about 30 grams. So you definitely save about 50 to 70 grams per skate, which is not a lot, but if you do weight saving. All these small savings could add up to a larger amount. Something that you could definitely feel. Maybe not even during your session, but after your session, that you're less tired. So my two favorites so far. I'd say the Trigger Freerocker is a really good frame. Because I really like that I get this accurate lock and I'm never worried about slipping. It's not gonna slip out from that groove. But if I really want to do something experimental, I would, or I'm not going out to the street to do some very specific rail or anything. So for just general use, for messing around in the streets, probably this frame, these two are the ones that I like the most.